segment of Horsefly Chronicles Radio with myself, Julia Siracusa, and Philip Siracusa. We're broadcasting live from the United Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 103 FM from New Orleans. This evening's show is sponsored by Carnation, so we want to thank them for their sponsorship. You will have to do a few things in order to participate. Go over to the YouTube channel, UFO Paranormal Radio, and get into chat. Subscribe if you haven't. You have to go into all of the United Public Radio Facebook stations, Twitch, SoundCloud, and Podbean. I can only respond to the comments on our YouTube channel on UFO Paranormal Radio. And if you have any questions for our guests, please ask. You can also go over to UFO Undercover with Joe Montaldo on Facebook as well. So tonight we have a fabulous guest. Please welcome Coyote Chris Sutton to the show. Chris is a shaman and experienced paranormal investigator who began his spiritual journey over 25 years ago. Chris has helped so many people who are having problems with the negative paranormal events. He has been on numerous TV shows and has made appearances on radio shows and podcasts in the US, Canada, and Great Britain. You can also find his book on Amazon Prime, Shock and Awe, The Spiritual Journey of Coyote Chris Sutton. You can also find Chris appearing and presenting at paranormal and spiritual events across the country. So please welcome Chris into the show.
Welcome, Chris.
Yay!
Hey, Phil. Hi, Julie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So great to be back on to you guys. I just love talking to you too.
Yeah. We always have a great show when we have you on. Now we're on a larger network. And so just for the new audience, if you could just tell people how you got started and all that good stuff into the world of the unknown.
Okay. Did you have another question? Because this is going to take the whole hour. Oh, teasing. I'll shorten it down a little bit. It started 28 years ago. It's been almost 28 years now. I grew up, in a very non-religious household. We went to the Unitarian Church. So, we weren't into that type of thing because Unitarian's more about philosophical ideas and things like that. And so I was, as I go through my early part of my life, I'm pretty much an agnostic, very much into science, and just, didn't have much to do or any knowledge about the mystical side of life or the paranormal or Now I was always into UFOs. That was my first paranormal love. I didn't realize that's what it was then. But I started back in grade school and went through high school and whatnot. I actually still am pretty interested in it. But on this other part, the mystical part, I had reached a point in my life. I've been in social services for over 30 years. So I've always worked with people. And I was working with a group of adolescents who were juvenile sex offenders at the time. And I started, they were all victims too. And so I was starting to see and feel what they were seeing and feeling when they would tell their stories during therapeutic groups and things like that. And that was messing me up pretty bad because I just couldn't figure this out. And I got really depressed to the point where I was, clinically messed up. And so, I rallied back a little bit, but I knew there was something missing inside of here. I'd known it for a long time, but this was kind of the catalyst, I think, that got me to kind of open up. And so I always blame this on my wife. My wife's name's Julia too. And so she liked to go to powwows and that sort of thing. She used to dance when she was a Girl Scout in the Explorers. And so the big powwow comes where we lived in a little bitty town, East Central Illinois. And for some reason, the national powwow came to our county at the county fairgrounds. And so she goes, hey, I want to go. Let's go check this out. Now, I knew about the Native American culture historically, as far as through the religion or their spiritual beliefs and their customs about certain things. I didn't know squat. And so I thought, yeah, this will be cool. I've never seen anything like this. And so I go, and the powwows and stuff, they have the grand arena, the main arena there where a lot of the dancing occurs. But in this case, they also had some dances off to the side in these livestock barns. And so we're watching the main arena. So this is really cool. And I heard this drumming off to one of these buildings, and it sounded really intriguing. Something kind of pulled at me right here in my heart. And so I'm like, I'm going to go check this out. So I went in there, and I found out later it was a gourd dance, a warrior's dance. and the drumming is pounding, and the rattles are going, the chanting and whatnot, and it just became so. God, the energy just kind of washed over me, and it triggered something inside me. All of a sudden, I realized I had one foot in this world, and I had one foot in the other world of spirit, and I didn't know that at the time what that was. That just scared the shit out of me, because I had never experienced. I had no frame of reference for this at all. The Buddhists might call this a satori, that sudden flash of the spiritual lightning bolter's insight. And so I walked out of there, pretty dazed up. And I went to now these days you can go on the internet, look this stuff up. I had no idea what to look for. So I walked over to the books and I just grabbed one. It was about a Sioux shaman named Black Elk. And I read that book, and that kicked it off right there. 2 months later, I was looking in this magazine because, the Sioux, they play with the pipe, Chinupa Wakan. And so I'm like, how cool would it be to smoke the pipe with some people, who knew what it was all about and everything, and to learn some of these things. That was just my first thought, just to experience praying with the pipe. And so I'm going through this magazine, and we lived real close to Chicago then. So in the South Burbs, they had a New Age shop there that they were having a pipe circle, and it has a phone number. So I call them up. I said, can I come to the pipe circle? I've never done anything like this before. They said, yeah, sure, you can come up. And so I, got way out of my comfort zone, because I never saw myself walking into a metaphysical shop in my life at that point in time. And so I go there, and we smoke the pipe, and I meet my first teacher, and it just goes off from there.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah.
You hit a couple things on it. One of the first things you said is, about the UFO. So get into that just a little bit more. Like, what were you understanding? What did you believe?
I believed, and I still do, believe there's something, there's something out there. I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's from another galaxy. I don't know if it's from another dimension. There's so many different theories about what they are, but I know there's something there, and I know it's not. I don't think it's of this earth, or it's another dimensional thing or something like that. I actually had a pretty good sighting one time. I was coming home from my girlfriend's house, 2:00 in the morning, and going down this road, and it's not, it's hardly any traffic out. And this large object was over me, and it's going just a tad faster. So I was like, put the foot on the gas, just trying to keep, I wanted to watch it and look at it. And it was one of those real long ones. I don't know if it's cigars. It reminded me of a small aircraft carrier, with the lights and stuff, just a few lights. And then they was kind of random, but you could see the dark shape. Now I've seen the blimps, and I've seen that. It wasn't a blimp. It wasn't anything like it. There's no sound. And it just decided, it was enough. It had enough of me watching, I guess. And it didn't blaze off, but it just scooted, and it was gone. That one. But I've read a lot of different theory, from a lot of different authors. I think Jacques Vallée is my favorite. So he actually talks about the dimensional aspect and how that the old stories and you get them in this continent as well, about the fairies and whatnot carrying people off. You have the same thing here in a lot of the Native American stories. And so that's another thing is this has been going, if that's an abduction, then that's what it is. And then they were maybe not aliens and not, fairy spirits or whatnot. So, I
think it's fascinating. I believe in UFOs and aliens. And then the skeptics would say this. I like to hear what skeptics have to say. I like both sides, even though I'm a believer. But I like both sides. And what they say is, well, how come these things appear and disappear so quick that they're not staying still in New York City in Times Square, right above the buildings where everybody can see it? Mm-hmm. Why are they so quick in and out that we're trying to make sense of it? So what would you say about that?
Two possibilities. They are that quick, and they're able to displace space and time like that, or they're interdimensional. They can skip over to the other dimension very quickly. I don't understand the physics and stuff behind it. I haven't really looked into it, but I know there's a scientific possibilities for those things. People talk about Sasquatches. I don't know if this is true or not, but why can nobody ever find one? People see them, also bang, they're gone. And some people have extrapolated that they are part of that group of beings that they can flip in and out. I mean, boy, it's tough, but just because we can't measure it does not mean it doesn't exist or it can't be done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would not sell put my kids up for sale on that sort of thing, but it's impossible. Sure it is. We know that.
You would.
I would. Can I advertise that now on the show?
No.
That's right. Yeah.
I think
He's kidding.
Yeah. No, but it's fascinating. You have Bigfoot, you have the Loch Ness Monster, you have UFOs, which are waiting for our disclosure.
Right.
First, everybody.
That's right.
Government coming forward and hopefully don't spin like they spin everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to believe what they want us to believe because we already know the truth, those of us who have encountered or seen. However, there was a scientist that came forward recently, brilliant lady. And what she said was that something you said, Chris, there's no turbulence, there's no propulsion system. Therefore, it's as if they're coming through dimensions on their own, but it's like we're seeing something, we're trying to perceive it in our dimension. Her belief is that it may not be the case. It may be it's slipping through multiple dimensions.
Sure.
Like you said, my question was, why is it so fast? Why would it just appear in New York City where you have so many people? Here I am, right? Maybe it's because they're going through different dimensions so quick through magnetics, she said.
Right.
There's the magnetics around the earth, the poles of whatever, the universe, that these things can get pulled the way they steer themselves, that we're not able to understand the whole concept yet. Because we're not there yet in science.
Right.
We're not there, but they do exist.
Yeah.
But then, we have these other cases where the abductions come through and people say, no. I've been on these crafts. I've worked on these crafts at Area 51. I know what this is about. So that kind of, it raises a lot of questions. Again, I'm a believer. I like to hear what skeptics have to say. And I also am looking forward to what's coming out. Obama just came forward and says, look, we can't do this. We don't know how this is done.
Yeah. So
I'm glad he did that. I find that fascinating.
Oh yeah. He's stand up when it comes to stuff like that. He's like, I've read like, John Mack. I remember if you remember John Mack or not I think he was at Harvard and was doing a study. He had hypnotists and things like that, was actually trying to find people. And he ended up dying. I didn't find this out till years later, but he ended up dying in a car accident. And so I don't know how much ever came out of that, or like Whitney Strieber's book about his experiences, and they're all pretty consistent. So yeah, but as far as, I don't know if you've ever read Dune by Frank Herbert, but I love hard science fiction. I used to when I was younger, but talking about bending and folding space-time, like you create your own wormhole.
Yes.
And it moves you right there, Now, can you do that with magnetics? Probably more possible. Instead of looking at propulsion drives, look at something like that, where, you're manipulating a natural energy, much like, people who do what I do. You use energy that's available to use it to put in other people or to communicate with a spirit. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can use that most people don't know about. Just imagine if you had a few thousand years, if not longer, head start on us, what you would have found out.
True. Yeah.
So
they believe there's 1,000 years ahead of us.
Yeah, at least.
At least 1,000 years. And look, I think it has a lot to do with the paranormal world, because on a previous show, I was just talking about this, that some of the investigations that we've had, even on our own home, we'd have multiple teams at one time. And, there's that big question mark about these shadow people.
Right.
What they are exactly. Are they demonic? Are they just ghostly spirits that have crossed over? Some of these investigations, these shadow people, on this equipment, they were interdimensional, and they were coming through with an intelligent response, sort of like, yes, we watch you, we know what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing,
Right.
and it raises the question, are these aliens? And I
Mm-hmm.
say that because, look,
Mm-hmm.
some shadow people would be demonic forces, but it just so happens that they're so intelligent. They
Yeah.
know what you're going to do before you do it. And is it possible that these things can teleport
Yeah.
through what we perceive to be materialistic objects, walls,
Yeah.
doors, windows? Maybe it doesn't exist to them.
Oh
It
yeah, I
can
mean, because
teleport through.
yeah, I mean the speed at which things vibrate. I mean, if you break everything down, your wall just vibrates slower than most things. But if you're able to work your molecules around that through your energy, that we have imagined, sure, why couldn't you? Um, yeah, I was actually just in a documentary called The Shadow Dimension that Mike Ricksecker did, and if you haven't seen it, I'd give it a look because he touches on the stuff. What are these things? We don't know. Now, having encountered them before in my work, and I'm sure you have too. Some of them have the feel of like maybe it was an actual person, but some of them have a totally different feel. I've seen some that just they're watching, but they're not particularly interested. And it's like and they're very powerful, so you don't want to piss them off. That's what I feel. It's like I don't want to mess with this, but it'll like walk around and look at things and look at you, and just kind of move on. Like what other ones will try to interact with you. I've had to interact with shadow people before, and they'll do things. But some of these they're not that. They're something entirely different, and they have their own unique feel and their own unique energy that transcends what I would call maybe a spirit shadow person.
I agree. I
Definitely.
definitely agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
What you do in the investigation part, what makes you sold and believe in the unknown and communication with the other side? Is it yourself, or is it equipment, or is it both?
Oh, it's me. A little bit I do equipment too. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't use the traditional stuff. White noise machines irritate the crap out of me. I don't, I just don't want to sit and listen to them. Some people love them. That's great. I mean, everybody likes their own stuff. Now, I've worked with people with geoports, and I've gotten some really good things that made a lot of sense with geoports. But people make fun about with this, but I use that necrophonic on my phone sometimes. Now, I'm usually getting about the same thing, but if you got people with you, it sort of reinforces that. And you'll get certain answers to certain things. I was at Hinsdale House this last weekend, and we were upstairs, and we were talking to them, and I asked them a question. I can't be too forthcoming about what it was. It's kind of a secret. But I know Dan and I are friends, and he had discussed it with me, Dan Class, who owns the Hinsdale House. But I asked the spirits a question about something very specific, and they came back with exactly the right answer. And nobody else in the room knew it. I knew what it was, but it's just, it works that way. For me, I don't know. Some people don't like them, I guess. It's just, I think whatever works for you. But yeah, if I think it'll work all right, if it's something that augments, it just kind of depends on what I'm doing too. If I'm leading a group in an event, then I want them to hear these things. I can sit there and get what I get and report that to them. But, they never know for sure. I've seen some mediums that were great. I've seen some mediums I knew were crap. So, but they put on a good show. I'm a medium rare, as I've always said. But so one time I went and did and this was a house investigation I did with a friend of mine. It was an event. So it was in Iowa. And so, of course, there's a cornfield next to the house, because if you don't live in a city, there's a cornfield next to your house. And so I get there and I'm checking the house, and there's something kind of funny in there. And all of a sudden I perceive there's some sort of spirit in the corn. So I went over there, and it was a couple of native spirits, and one's name was Gruff Tongue. It tells me, I'm like, shit, I could have made that up if I wanted to. So yeah, I'm hearing this, and so they tell me the little dark one's giving the white people trouble. Okay, so that tells me it's a little elemental, and that's what it was. And so, but they'll tell you stuff like that. And I told the people that were with me, and they understood, because we found it, and we said you have to stay in the attic, you got to go outside, but it's one of those places too. And I know you guys have seen this, where there's so much dysfunction in this family, that the spirits like that just come and eat that stuff up.
Oh,
You know?
yes.
And so it was one of those situations too. But yeah, it can work either way. I trust myself when I'm doing stuff what I need to do. But if I've got people with me, I don't mind using a gadget. People like to see the lights go off. People like to hear something come over a box that confirms something, that it gives you an intelligent answer. And I had people like throwing their hands up because that's it. That was on your phone. I said, yeah, I use it all the time. But yeah, I mean, it seems to fit me, and so I use it. And if I need it, if I want to, and I don't if I don't need to.
Yeah, that makes sense. The Hinsdale property.
Yeah.
We've never been there, but
No,
just looking at
just
the
looking at
pictures, there's a lot of energy over there, isn't there?
You better believe it. You guys got to go sometime. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is that the property, there's so many of these places that are haunted, where there's so much energy in the ground itself that it just sets everything else up. I mean, there's a hill that goes up the back. Excuse me, and I mean, it's crazy up there. There's different energy on one side and the other side. One's lighter, one's darker feeling. There's rumors that there are beings that were bound up there, and it does feel like that. There are some that I've been there 3 times now, and you get the same answers, sort of the same spirits.
Wow.
But yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I'm rarely in the house, and the house is the attraction. Failed exorcism, all this other stuff, and lots of activity. We had lots of activity when I was in there. And the reason I came in the house for as long as I did is because it started raining outside. But that's what I like to do. I got turned on to that at one event I did, because I got kicked out of a cabin it was a place that had all these old cabins from the 1800s, and a house that was built as a second house west of the Mississippi. It's like built in 1749, something like that. And so I get kicked out of this one place because the medium says that they didn't like me, which is probably true because sometimes the spirits don't. But it's dead when I was in there. When I walked out, I see lights flashing. So okay, it's cool. So anyway, I have these series of experiences outside, including fairy lights, a ghost light, spook light, real big one. All these things are happening. So I'm feeling the energy of this place. And I knew it had been a native place before. It's actually not too far from where my parents grew up. And so we got to the end of the night, and I'm going to try something. I had not done this before because usually you don't ghost hunt outside. So I'm going to do I get my drum out, and we sang some songs. We talked to the spirits and said, hey, why we're here, we care. Elemental spirits, there's elemental spirits, and there are native spirits there. And just, and we're just being real positive and thanking them for all who they were, and saying we're sorry for what happened. And right after I did the last song, the trees started swaying. One tree started swaying, and there's no wind. And I'm like, wow. So I got to do this some more. So yeah, so I usually start, if I do an event, I start with everybody outside in a circle, and it seems to get the spirits, interested, and they feel good about it, and even inside and outside the house, a place. So yeah, it really sets things off sometimes in a positive way.
Do you think that from the locations that you've been,
mm-hmm.
is it residual, or is it active, or is it both? And now I say active, I mean as intelligent as
mm-hmm.
the spirit's saying, no, I could see you right now.
Yeah.
I know what you're doing right now.
Yeah. I believe both. I guess it could be true any place. You have a mixture of the two, especially if you got a place where a lot of different things have happened, like Hinsdale, or like a Civil War battlefield. I mean, just all sorts of crazy stuff happens. So yeah, you've got that potential. Then you've got all this energy in the ground. I've seen places that were haunted that shouldn't have been haunted because nothing really bad happened there. But you go out to the land and you start feeling the land itself, which is part of, that's what I do. I feel the energy in things, whether it's ground, sky, or whatever, in people. But yeah, all of a sudden you feel this wonderful energy in the ground. All sorts of things can happen.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you think like we're a building, there's, let's just say, for example, there's a terrorist attack, the building's blown up, many people
mm-hmm.
die. Years and years and years later, they're putting up condominiums on that property. the people that move into the condos? Do you think that that residual energy from that tragic event, they're going to feel it?
They could.
Or
That's very possible. If you take like a suicide spot, I hate suicide spots because it leaves like a stain. I mean, the spirit's not there anymore, but that terror and that feeling of total abandonment of life,
Yeah.
it makes you cringe. But the spirit's gone. But it's like, and that sort of lends to like some dimensional stuff too. I mean, you've got this. I've come across 2 or 3 of those places where somebody's committed suicide, and it just makes me sick to my stomach. I've been to a place where people have been murdered and felt where they, like a guy got stabbed in the gut. So one place I went in, and I was walking. I didn't know this till later. I was walking over the place where it happened, and I got my stomach's hurt. And I walked out of it and I quit. And I found later a guy got stabbed there.
Oh.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So, and that's residual stuff right there. So, yeah, you get, that's like a Civil War battlefield. I went to Pea Ridge one time. I've never been to Gettysburg, but Pea Ridge is in Arkansas. And I didn't even think about it as being stupid. I walked out there and holy crap, it almost knocked me over. All that residual energy, the terror, the bloodshed, it's just, So, yeah, I mean, and people will feel it, I think. I mean, it's very possible. But I don't know the laws of it. Is it certainly going to happen? Could it happen? I don't know. I mean, I can only speak from my experiences, what I experienced in certain places where things have happened.
And this brings me to a question, Chris. Let's think about this for a second. You ready?
Yeah.
Some people believe in aliens, some people don't. Some people believe in ghosts, demons, and angels, some people don't. Is it just possible that the people that do believe are the lighthouses that are able to see, sometimes virtually and sometimes through the mind's eye or through some form of telepathy, the other side, where others who do not believe in anything can still be in the same locations and not feel anything because there is no belief system? Your thoughts, Chris?
Yes, I agree with that. Classic case in point, Steve DeShavi, who I have had a couple of conversations with him. He was with Amy Allen. And I'm using this because people know who these people are. And Steve was told me, we were talking, bunches were talking to him, that he goes, I don't know. He goes, I don't know why people invite me to these ghost investigations and stuff, because he goes, I go up on the floor and they quit. There's no activity that stops. It does. He's like a null. He goes, he doesn't believe in it. And boom, it's not there.
We've talked to him. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they just scatter. Even the other people don't feel them. And so, yeah, I do believe that's true. I mean, does that mean somebody can't wake up to it? Yeah, I mean, pity. I mean, I have had to help more people who were pretty sensitive empaths that didn't know it, and they go on their first ghost hunt, and some spirit picks up on that. And the next thing you know, they're having a great time, and next thing you know, they're crying, or I don't know what's wrong with me. I said, I know what's wrong with you. Come on, let's go outside and get you back together and explain to them. You need to learn how to shield yourself from these things. You're an empath, and that's it. That's just the first sign. We don't know what else you can do. But yeah, that breaks through sometimes.
I agree. I think the belief system has a lot to do with it. Now you take Amy Allen. I used to love watching the Dead Files, and she scares me because she'd go to some locations and be like, "This thing is 7 feet tall. It's got 5-foot arms," and I'm like, "What are these things?" And she has a description of them and a name for these things, and I'm saying to myself, "Is it real? Does it really exist? Can she really see these things?" And then another person could be in there, like the family. They say, "Well, we're being haunted and tormented, but we don't know what." And then you got a guy like Steve who's there to do the research, Steve DeShavi, do the research, get the background, but yet he is part skeptical of some of the things, but he's a great investigator.
Yes.
Right.
Which makes a perfect show, of course.
Yeah,
it does, exactly.
So my question is then, is it going back only to the belief system that these things, aliens, demons, ghosts, do exist? Or is it more factual information, whether you believe or not, it still does exist? Do you understand where I'm going with that question?
Yeah.
I'm going pretty deep with that. I'm going into the point of, it's about the intentional belief. If you
Mm-hmm.
have an intent of a belief, and these things, they do exist to you.
Mhm.
And if you don't have an intentional belief in anything, it does not exist to you.
Now, I think if you believe or you are open to it, you're more likely to have those experiences like you're talking about. Somebody who doesn't won't. However, when confronted with something very grossly obvious, like these videos of they're being shown of these what they call them now, that they don't call them UFOs, it's unidentified aerial phenomena. You can't refute that, so it
Yes.
starts to kind of crash that. Now, when it comes to the spirit world, when it comes to that shadow world, they can insulate themselves pretty well just by because if I'm doing healing work on somebody, if I'm doing a psychic work with somebody, if they choose not to accept the energy or if they wall themselves off, it's not going to work because it's the energy aspect. You can create a boundary around yourself, whether you know it or not, that will not allow this in. The same thing with your senses. If you're so blinded that this can't be true, you're not going to see something until it finally hits you in the head. I know a story. I heard a story of a guy, and I've more than one person has verified this actually happened. I've talked to different people who were there. I think it was at the Farrar School in Iowa. And some guy was running his mouth and said, "This is bullshit. You know, you guys are stupid." You know, somebody I would have thrown out well before he got as far as he did. But because I don't believe in people ruining other people's experiences, I always tell people, hey, if you believe what you want to believe, but people are here because they want to have a good time.
Yeah.
So anyway, this guy's, oh, this is stupid. It's about 5 minutes, I guess 5 minutes before the thing was over. He'd been running his mouth. All of a sudden, they got in a dark place. The guy was on the floor. They had to carry him out. Someone whacked him. And he's a believer now.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is my own experiences. I was teaching I think a class on, might have been, I do an intro to shamanism class. I don't teach people to become shaman, but I tell people what it's about. And some guy came with his cousin or something like that, and he was skeptical, which is fine. I don't mind. And he wasn't too bad. He would ask questions like, "How do you know this? How do you know this?" It's just like, cool. I understand it. So I'll explain to him my words. So we went out back I take him out to talk to the trees and stuff like that, or exchange energy with trees. And so we're talking. He goes, "Well, how do you know this stuff happens?" I said, "Well, in my case, if you look straight up, there's a hawk circling us." He looked up, and sure enough, there's a hawk circling. I just knew it was there, and there it was, circling us. He looks at me, and he was the best student after that. And we went back into session. So yeah, I mean that can happen. All of a sudden, that like in Shoeless Joe, the brother-in-law, he doesn't see it, suddenly see it. Something crazy happens. He goes, "Where do all these people come from?" That veil gets lifted. But you can create that veil until it gets to a certain point of critical mass where it will dissolve because it just becomes too apparently true. But in the meantime, you can. I've seen people go their whole lives. It could be ghosts dancing all around. They wouldn't see them or wouldn't feel them. So yeah.
Yeah, I've had atheist people too that didn't believe until they got their own slap.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that firsthand through Ouija board session. Oh, it's fake, you're moving it, and they were just bystanders in their room, but they were mocking the spirit that was coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And the timing of what happened to them unfolding in the next couple of days, to me, was no coincidence. It was the spirit saying, "Let's play.
Yeah.
You want to play? We'll play now."
Yeah.
And I would get phone calls in the middle of the night. "I'm afraid. I can't believe this is happening to me. Different type of insects are in my room now, and now all of a sudden my car don't start. I'm having problems with my job. My girlfriend wants to leave me. What's happening? What did I do?"
Mm-hmm.
I tell people, look, respect the other side.
That's right.
You don't know who and what you're talking to. Respect it.
Yep.
Definitely.
Whether you believe it or not, don't disrespect that side because you don't know
Mm-hmm.
what they can do. And again, I've seen that, and it's quite scary because
Yeah.
they are more stronger in energy
Than anyone
we could
knows.
ever think of
Mhm.
being, and what they can do to the mind. They can decay the mind so quick that people go into these hallucinations
Yeah.
and these suicidal thoughts, and
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden they don't even know what they're doing in life anymore. So you got to be
True.
careful of the words that you trend because they can come back to haunt you.
I worry about all the little kids out there who are dabbling into this for the first time, and they don't know what they're doing, and that is what really scares me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they do, and they're imitating people and who don't know what they're doing. They see stuff on television. Not everything on television is fake, but they put a lot of it on. I know that, and they see that sort of thing. You know, you see somebody taunting, or if you see somebody, you know, I love that. I saw a meme the other day, a while back. Goes, you have to be 21 years old to drink alcohol, but you don't need to be 8 years old to summon the devil. You know, it's that little 8 years and up for the Ouija board. So yeah. I mean, that's why I always try to teach kids, and my kids grew up knowing what things were about and how to respect it. And so, but they need to learn it. But you're right, Julie. I mean, that scares me too, because there's a lot of ignorance out there today, and it's going to cause trouble. I mean, I'm glad people are into this sort of thing, but if you don't treat it right, it's going to come back on you.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Chris, have you ever done an investigation or try to communicate with the spirit, whether it's through your abilities or through equipment, asking the spirits that have crossed over, hey, are there other life forms, such as interdimensional beings, that do exist? Did you ever ask that question?
I don't think I've ever asked it directly. I may have done it in a counter, like, is there anybody else there with you besides you guys, or like that? No, I've never been that specific about it, though, Philip, and now I will be. Now you've got my curiosity aroused. Yeah, next time I will do that, because that is something to find out. Is there anybody else there with you? I mean, I've seen, like I said, these elementals. I see them as elementals. That's what they come across as, but what are they really? I don't know. They're shadowy, but they're not. Like I said, they're different. They've got this sort of different power. So yeah, now I'm gonna have to figure that out, because they're coming through the same place that the ghosts will come to. Because some places are so lit up, they're so powerful that these transient spirits will come in just to check it out. Get something to eat. And what else is coming through with them? Yeah. Or is that who's creating the portal? And then the ghost is coming through because this alien or elemental has created the portal. Created it. I don't know.
The last time we had you on our show, I had raised a question, which I would love to see done, but I don't think that they would allow it. You agreed, if it was possible, to investigate one of the Great Pyramid or some of these pyramids in Egypt, because there's so much energy and information that can be discovered there, but I don't know if they would even allow something like that.
I kind of doubt it. You never know, but yeah, that's dicey business, especially with like native sites. I'm real reticent to do anything like that. Like I live very close to a place called Cahokia Mounds, where they've got 70 something mounds. That's just not that's the ones left that didn't get knocked over to use for roads and things like that. They have a very large, spectacular mound. And I did a little tobacco ceremony up there one time for some people, but I don't, but it was just meant to educate. It wasn't meant to really raise anything, or to talk to anything. So I'd be real careful about that, because you can step on a lot of toes. I'd probably be interested in going to England and doing something like that. I feel more comfortable with that. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to do it. I mean, the pyramids. I'll tell you, I'll be honest. I probably would take a shot at it. I'd love to go into America's Stonehenge sometime up in New Hampshire. I had a dialogue going with them too, because they were on Horsefly. So I messaged the guy, and he answered me back, and he said, "Look into it for me." But I'll have to ask him again. But yeah, after watching that, I gotta go. And I'm not one of these people that just has to go somewhere. Very rarely. But I saw that, I said, I gotta do this somehow. So we'll see.
That would be wild.
I want to talk about your book.
Okay.
So your book's on Amazon. What inspired you to write this book?
There it
is. And usually I don't have one in reach, but I just happen to have one tonight.
Hey, can you just hold that one more time close to the camera?
Yeah.
For our viewers. Perfect.
Great.
There we go.
Just to get that on Amazon.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, what inspired you to write this book?
You know what? I've been trying to write a book for years, and I've got more manuscripts started and abandoned than Carter has little pills, as they used to say. You know why I wrote? I mean, I wanted to write it anyway, but I needed some way to do it where I was comfortable with the process. And so this book is based on 2 interviews that I did back in 2018, early 2019. And what I did was, and I have them, they're on Quasm. It used to be Video Space. They're on Quasm now. It's the same thing. They just changed, Elizabeth Saint changed the name and stuff. So I had these 2 videos, and they hadn't been put up there yet. So I called a friend of mine, Mike Ricksecker, Haunted Road Media, who's a publisher, and I said, I want to get this transcribed. Now, I'm not going to sit there and type it myself. I'd still be doing that, and I'd be on the 4th page. But so he tells me about his website. You upload it, and it just spits it out. So I did that. And it's like, and the reason I got the idea from, it wasn't an original idea. Joseph Campbell, the mythologist, had done a series of interviews with Bill Moyers on PBS. And I actually own a book that has it's a transcription of that whole interview. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. And so I got it transcribed, and I got to looking at it, because what the book is much more than what's in the films, in the interviews, because I had to expound on things. Otherwise it wouldn't make any sense. It makes sense if you watch the video. It doesn't make sense if you're reading it. So, I added a ton of stuff and edited. I had edited it like 5 or 6 times just to make sure that I was happy with it. So my father was an English teacher, and he taught lit and all that kind of stuff. And so and he was always, he was never critical of what I did or anything, but I've always got that thing on my head, like, oh, you got to make it perfect, So anyway, I had a base to start from. And so I edited it. I added a lot of stuff to it that makes it flow better and gets more of information. They each stand on their own, but the book has more information in it. And the reason I wanted to write it the most was not to, it's not about Chris Sutton's a great guy, he's all this, he's all that. No, that's not why I did it. Because I cut myself down pretty good in parts of it. But I wanted to show people, if I can do it, you can do it. And this is the process right here. You find out what kind of gifts you have. You find out where you want to go with it, and you learn how to let Spirit make the decisions instead of you. And there's so many other things. It was basically, this is how the process went for me. You can do it too. And I got right in there someplace. This is why, by reading this, helps spark you towards something to make yourself, into something more and become more of your really true self. Because a lot of us are living false lives because we're doing something that somebody else wants us to do.
How true is that?
And this is to break you free of that. To say, no, I have got to be me. I've got to, this is my life. And Spirit has given me a gift. And we all have a gift from Spirit. This is what we talk about in the Cecilius medicine tradition that I'm part of. That we all have a gift from Spirit. And our job is to pray or meditate and figure out and to experience what this gift is. Then you don't go out and start helping people yet. You heal yourself first. And it talks about this, how I had to do to heal through what I went through. And then once you've healed yourself and got your own shit together, then you go out and help other people. I've seen that in my own, my day job career, in social services. But people have really got big hearts and they'll go out and help all these people, but they're a mess themselves.
Yeah.
And they haven't resolved that yet. And you have to resolve that. Part of it is through my medicine work, part of it is through counseling. And I'm never ashamed to say that. I've been through therapy. I still go once in a while just to make sure there's no screws loose, but it's just good to talk to somebody because,
yeah,
you live such a varied life that needs something to keep you centered.
Life's hard.
Yeah, it is. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be worth it.
Yep.
The hardest things are the ones that are worth it the most. They
say that.
Very true.
It's true. I'll vouch for it.
Yep. The best things are free. Yes. Very
true.
Yeah.
But I think it's fascinating. So that book, get it?
Amazon.
Yeah. What's the title again?
Shock and Awe: The Spiritual Journey of Coyote Chris. If you just put in Coyote Chris Sutton, it'll take you right to it.
Yep.
So yeah.
And it's on my Facebook page too.
Thank you.
So with your abilities, definitely get that book. What's your abilities in the investigations? Do any of the spirits come through to you in your dreams?
Ooh, good question.
No, I've been fortunate in that I know of. Um, yeah, I'm not much of a dreamer. I dream, but I don't dream about that. That tends to come through. Now, it may be later on, something will come through when I'm awake, like something was waiting to get there to me. And so that does happen. We had an incident this weekend where one of the attendees, a younger girl, 20, I guess she got scratched. And usually they're not like that there. And I guess she got scratched, and Dan wasn't said, hey, you got to cut that out. That you already talked about that. So she comes up in my group later on, and I'm looking at her, and something tells me, what's going on. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, I wouldn't talk to her. I said, listen to me. There have been investigators that come here with young, when they'll take the youngest one. I've seen this, people do this stuff on television. They'll take the youngest person, use them as bait. Mm. And she goes, and I think they thought you were bait. Oh. And she goes, yeah. She goes, I think that makes sense. Because she kind of felt like that too. Just kind of, I had no connection with them at all. So it happens to me like that sometimes, where it's like I'll go through something, and then it's almost like an afterthought a day or two later. Oh, okay. It's finally, they're able to get through to you. But no, dreaming is never, there's actually an art to that dreaming stuff. I just never, I dream about weird shit. So, it's a dude ghost. I could be going to work in your underwear and that kind of stuff,
Well, sometimes I ask the question as well that, did you ever have a dream where there's people that you never met before in the physical world that are out in the dream?
I have, and I heard that means it's a spirit. And so, yeah. I guess I have dreamed with spirits before. It's never in a negative way. I tend to, if I dream about spiritual stuff, it tends to have to do with the shamanic side. One time I dreamed that I was at my desk at work, but I was outside. And this huge thunderstorm pops up, and the rain's pouring, the lightning's, flashing, and everything. It's getting all my papers wet. And that tells me two things. One, that shit on your desk ain't that important. Two, the thunder beings are talking to you. That's, and that's very powerful stuff. And so you have to, these dreams, you got to do different interpretations, because that would be more along the lines of when you're asking or meditating or praying about what your medicine is or what your gift is, you would have dreams like that. That would tell me, a whole lot about that person. And it also tells you a lot about yourself. So I suppose I have, but it tends to be more on that side, not the ghost side or the elemental side. It tends to be more, I'm more likely to dream of a spirit guide and whatnot. So than that type of stuff than I am to anything else. So, it does, but just on the other side of the coin. Because, that's how I started. I didn't start in the paranormal. I started my spiritual path well before I got into paranormal. It's at least 5 years before I got into paranormal. So, yeah.
What's your thoughts on reincarnation?
I didn't used to believe in it, even after I started this sort of thing. But I've met people, one person in particular, I knew, and she knows it. She knows me very, very, close. And that's weird. It's also it's difficult because to meet somebody like that. But so I'm like, I guess I got to go with it. So I believe that more that I've looked into, I believe that you have a choice whether you want to come back or not. You can say I'm done. Now, some people, I think some souls, they look for perfection, but they look for completion. And so they want to make sure they want to go through all the tasks. They want to become the best soul they can. The Buddhists have a term called bodhisattva, enlightened soul. And the bodhisattva could go to nirvana, could, get out of the cycle of suffering. That's what life is, a cycle of suffering. But they choose to come back. Now, I'm not saying this is me. It'd be cool if it was, but I don't, that's how I live my life. So I would never say, but I still would never say, because sometimes I think about I want to go home, and I'm like, where's that coming from? I am home. So, but anyway, the Bodhisattva comes back on purpose to help people get out of the circle of suffering to achieve their highest self. If a lot of times it's not a lot of times, but sometimes you get situations where a child or a young person dies tragically. And you could just say, oh, God, why would God kill my, it's God's plan? No. So I think a lot of those situations are that person, that soul came back purposefully. Because when we see things like that, we can take it two ways. God's going to kill me, or this world's awful. Or, wow, that soul came down, sacrificed itself to show us that life's too short and don't worry about that little stuff. To be, be truly present, be truly alive. Don't get caught up in the muggle world too much. That and that's it's powerful stuff when you stop and think about it. Instead of using it is a tragedy, yes, but take the gift that came from it and live your life more openly, more aware. Get out of your own shit and try to help yourself and help the world, because life's too short.
Don't skip chapters in your life.
That's right.
Right. I like that.
Don't skip chapters.
Good, Phil.
Yeah. How many people plan for tomorrow, but yet they don't live for today. So
That's true.
it's true. But the hour went quick, Chris.
Yeah, it always does.
This is a fast show in the hour, but tell people the good stuff you have coming on, where they can find you, and all that good stuff.
Oh, okay. You can I've got a calendar on my website at www.coyotechris.com. And you can find me on Facebook at Christopher Sutton, and I live in Illinois, so that's easy to find because there's lots of Christopher Suttons. I have a person I have a like page where you call him Chris at Coyote. That's Coyote Chris Sutton on Facebook. On Twitter at Coyote Chris S. On Instagram at Coyote Chris S. You can also find me on Instagram, not Instagram, IMDb as Chris Sutton XXI. I'm the 21st Chris Sutton that's on IMDb. That shows you what shows I've been on, stuff, and how to find it. Let's see what's coming up next month. I'm going to be in Richmond. We're going to Berkeley Plantation. I'm with Flumery Promotions, Ray Savino and a crew, and April Bussett and I are going to be at the Berkeley Plantation. I want to say it's the last weekend. Let me find out for sure here because my memory sucks. I have too much going on. It's June 26th. We'll be at the Berkeley Plantation. It's actually a paranormal investigation for younger people. That doesn't mean you can't show up. It's geared towards that, towards early teens and that sort of thing. So, which will be fun. April and I have worked together, and she's a sweetheart. She's a blast, and so it'll be a good time. I love working with kids. Stands right now, July 3rd weekend, 17th of July. I'll be at the paranormal. Gosh damn it. I'll be in Cedar Rapids. Go to my website. I always forget what it's the Psychic and Paranormal Expo in Cedar Rapids on the 17th and 18th, I think it is. In August, the 22nd, I think it's the 22nd, it's the third week in August, I'll be at the Midwest Annual Paranormal Festival in Marshalltown, Iowa. That's all. You can look that up on Facebook. It's out there. That's going to be a good time. Be a lot of different people there. Then I'm going to Michigan Paracon.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. 2 years ago I bought a table is what I did. So I get to go this year. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I haven't been to any real big cons for a while.
You have so much.
Huh? You
have a lot going on.
I know. And then I got some stuff in October too. But yeah, just go to my website. You can find my calendar. I get stuff added to it frequently. So I was supposed to
thank you, Chris. Can you just one more time hold that book up to the camera and say the name of the book for the listener?
Okay, it's Shock and Awe, The Spiritual Journey of Coyote Chris Sutton.
And really quick, in a paragraph, what would people get out of reading that book?
You will learn how somebody like anybody can walk a spiritual path and get lots of things out of it. It shows you how the universe reacts when you are truly being yourself, and will open up opportunities to you. It'll show how you can grow as a person and grow through your mystic work or through any type of work that you want to do with your life to better other people and yourself.
I like it. Thank you so much, Chris. Everyone, to all listeners, we're going to wrap it up.
And
have a great Memorial Day.
Thank you.
Stay safe, Chris. Thank you so much. Definitely going to
My
have
pleasure.
a part 2.
Love
we want
being
to
with you
thank
guys.
Thank you.
We want to thank Carnation for sponsoring the show, and you
Mm-hmm.
can join us again next Monday night at 7 CT, 8 ET, coming live from United Public Radio 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM from New Orleans.
All right. Thank you,
Chris.
everyone. Thank you, Chris, and
Have a great
everybody.
night.
June
Good night.
1st, aliens.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see what our famous government brings forward. Have a great night, everyone. Stay safe and look up in the sky.
Good night, Chris.
Good night.